Hey everybody, it's Norris with the Norris Group. It is Friday, May 24th, and can we have a serious conversation about affordable housing? Because it's driving me nuts. That and much more as we cover the biggest headlines in real estate. Up on the radio show and podcast, I have John Aronson. For the last couple of weeks, we've already been covering accessory dwelling units, focusing on SB 13. That's the bill about accessory dwelling units, where the state is getting rid of the overlays that cities are trying to put on the 80 regulations that came out a few years ago. Time for round three, because the cities are doing overlays that make no sense and goes against what we're trying to do, which is affordable housing. So John Aronson is an expert in manufactured housing as well as stick-built ADUs down in San Diego, and we talk about SB 13, what markets he's been working in and issues that he's been having and where they get stuck in San Diego, the difference between prefab and manufactured housing, as well as Title 24 versus 25, and some things that real estate investors need to be thinking about if they are interested in ADUs. So you won't want to miss that this week, and watch out for my article in Forbes on accessory dwelling units coming out today. Existing home sales decreased 0.4% last month, according to the National Association of Realtors. New home sales decreased in April by 6.9% to 673,000, according to the Commerce Department. Mortgage applications increased 2.4%, according to the MBA. Mortgage rates went a little lower this week, with 30-year rates now at 4.06% and 15-year rates at 3.51%. A Redfin analysis shows that vacant homes sell for less money and spend more time on the market, which is very interesting because iBuyers are sort of just doing that very thing. The analysis compares the sales price and time spent on the market for home listings that were marked vacant at the time they were sold with those that were not flagged as vacant. Two things to consider here. A vacant home can signal to the buyer that you are comfortable with your financial situation, and you, like a boss, can carry two mortgages, so you're just not going to budge on price. The other is that vacant homes do offer the opportunity for staging, either with physical furniture or virtually, so you have some flexibility there, and they're not looking at your crap that you just don't want to clean. So there's always that, but it's interesting to follow this kind of information, because iBuyers thus far, from what I'm seeing here in Riverside County, are not staging virtually or actually staging the property. So if this continues, it'll be interesting to see if they change their model. Business Insider this week shares 9 mistakes people make when trying to sell their home, which is a great follow-up to the last story. They overprice the home, which is interesting because some of the homes that these iBuyers are listing, it's interesting to watch their journey slowly ratchet down, and they do so very consistently every week. So overpricing is not good. Not accepting that not everyone has your specific taste. Keeping decor that's too specific. That's you with the red accent wall. Not decluttering the home before listing it, not making the home as beautiful as possible, not staging the home, not paying attention to the market, not choosing the right agent, and not using an agent at all. So again, with iBuyers on the market, if they're really going to upset it, we're going to find out if all these ring true in about a year. Raise your hand if you don't know what an Oreo is. It's all right. I still get a lot of questions on how soon we forget. It's been almost a decade since the downturn, so okay, you don't know what it is. But it's not something that you would expect the current Secretary of Housing and Urban Development not to know. When asked by Representative Katie Porter, can you explain the disparity in REO rates? Do you know what an REO is? And the head secretary responded with an Oreo? Yikes. Once it was clarified that she said an REO, he then said real estate organization? Well, that's awkward. For the record, real estate owned, that's what happens when a property goes back into foreclosure. It becomes real estate owned, meaning the lender took it back. She was asking because FHA loans have a much higher REO rates compared to those with traditional comparable loans. Oh well. Realtor.com shares there's new research being conducted to investigate the link between DIYers going to the ER and renovation reality shows. Yes, you watch Rehab Addict and you thought, that would look really cool in my house. All I need is a bandsaw, a chainsaw, I don't know, some kind of saw. I can make that happen. A survey by the National Safety Council reveals that 26% of homeowners in the U.S. who've dabbled in DIY have suffered injury, or someone in their home has been injured. Probably just because you didn't install things right, cabinets falling off of walls, I don't know. So to minimize the risk, know your tools, safety gear up, and know your limits. Maybe you shouldn't be trying to put on a new roof by yourself, and definitely get that blowtorch away from that live gas line. I don't think that's smart. Did you know that people aged 80 and over has increased 71% from 1990 to 2016? That is a huge increase, and as baby boomers retire, the way that we think about retirement housing may drastically change. Many developers think boomers are going to gravitate to more urban environments because they're going to have more options for things like healthcare, travel, entertainment, and just a better lifestyle overall. Amy Steckman, Chief Executive Officer of Two Life Communities, which is largely focused on the low-income senior, is really look at pricing models and making it more affordable, because these shared housing environments can offer a lot of flexibility and lower prices when you compare them to things like independent living, assisted living, that kind of stuff. She also is focused on life transitions. So a lot of people in the senior housing industry, you have independent living, and then people move to assisted living, and as the progressive need for healthcare increases, they move to different location. Her model is they're going to age in place and not have to move, which would be really interesting to see how she's going to manage that. But there's a lot of opportunities in this space, and I am very interested in this in some of my rentals, so I am following closely. So can we have a serious conversation about affordable housing? Because this is driving me nuts. So the San Francisco Democrat Scott Wiener's Senate Bill 50 has died for now, and it would have required cities to permit mid-rise residential near rail stations and major job centers, even on land zoned only for single-family homes. And parking requirements would have been waived. So the idea is you've got these corridors next to mass transit to where they could build mid-rise and not have to put so much parking, because the theory is that people in those environments would just take mass transit. Coming from New York City, I know that works because I didn't have a car. I only drove 3 times in the 7 years I lived there, so I get it. So you've got legislators not wanting to give up control, though, to the state, and this is definitely the state forcing their hand. You've got NIMBYs, if you don't know what that means, is that's not in my backyard, so the local community not wanting changes for fear of traffic, as well as changing just the environment and the overall character of the communities. Cities haven't changed zoning to allow the density change, and furthermore, they are tacking on huge development fees that makes it just really onerous to build, and it's not even considering what utilities are costing for the same thing. If you're building in some environments just for a hookup, even in communities that you wouldn't consider really expensive like LA, I mean, it's 5 figures. It's crazy. And you've got builders who can't even think about touching raw land because they know that they're going to get locked up in litigation because of CEQA for a decade or more. And California in 2020 has also layered on the need for solar on every new construction project. So builders are just having a harder and harder time building things that are affordable because of everything in California. It's great in theory, but it's just a little difficult to pencil. And we don't have the redevelopment agency anymore to underwrite some of those development dollars. And one more note is that a lot of people that live in communities with utilities think that it's a monopoly. What do you think solar is? At some point, those utilities have very high retirement costs, just like the cities are struggling with right now. And as more solar ends up getting on the grid, and if we're not growing, you're going to have that cost land on the consumers, or the cost of living is going to increase on their backs. And how they're going to do that is they're just going to tack it on to some sort of user fee. It's not going to be tied to the variable rate of usage. It's just going to be, you're a customer of this utility, well, it's $100 to be tacked on to the grid. So affordable housing is complex. And in my mind, I don't see any quick way forward unless it's going through the same process that we're dealing with right now with the accessory dwelling unit, because builders can't look at each individual city. It's just really difficult to make it through the planning process. And I know planners, and they don't like giving up control, but I don't feel like they've also come to the table with real solutions to move things forward in a quick manner. When it comes to ADU, that legislation has been around for years, but you've got cities that are like, oh, we're going to place a moratorium right now because we need to study parking. It's 2 years old. You've had 2 years. What have you been doing for 2 years? It just drives me absolutely bonkers. What do you think needs to happen when it comes to affordable housing? I would love to hear your ideas because I'm just about done. If you're on YouTube, please leave a comment below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a beat. If you're on Facebook, please don't forget to not only like the Norris Group page, but don't forget to add us to your See First list and with notifications on. Leave your comments below the video, and if we miss something, share the story on our comment sections on either YouTube or Facebook, and we'll make sure to include it on our blog at thenorrisgroup.com/blog. We would love to see you out and about. June 11th, I will be moderating the panel at SDCIA on accessory dwelling units, and while largely the audience will be made up of owner-occupants looking at accessory dwelling units, it's a really interesting time to listen to. We've got the mayor of Encinitas as well as a planner from Encinitas on the panel. We've got a few lenders talking about the different lending options in the market. Taxpayer advocate, you've got John Aronson. It's a very big panel, and that's why we're focusing on the radio shows to sort of beef up sort of the investor questions I think you would ask in the audience, but we'd love to see you there if you have time. June 13, the California chapter of the Appraisal Institute, Dad Bruce, will be doing the annual Inland Empire Market Trends update for them. It's open for all, but it's typically mostly appraisers. June 18th, in SDREI's 15th anniversary dinner, Dad and I will be on panel taking Eric Saragusa's awesome questions. Always a fun night. July 10th, I'll be up in Sacramento at NorCal REIA doing innovative marketing, where I'm going to talk a lot about iBuyers and the competition and what investors need to know to position themselves in the market. For more information on all our events, check out the training tab. If you want more information on hard money loans, including fix and flip, buy and hold, and new construction, check out the hard money tab. We lend in both California and Florida. And for more information on passive investing with trust deeds, notes, and mortgages, check out that Invest tab. With that, have a fantastic and safe Memorial Day weekend, and we'll see you next week.